When I hit my early 20s, I quite suddenly decided I was a reader. Virtually overnight, I went from reading 0.3 books a year to 13 books a year, the year after that 33, the next 57, and the next 75. I'm not sure why the sudden change in daily routine, but I would definitely conclude that reading so much has been the single most beneficial thing I could have done. As I started reading more and more, I noticed a thing that started happening with greater frequency. Books and subjects would reference each other. I mean that stuff in other books would speak on and reinforce something I had already read in another book. The funny thing is, it wasn't like seeing a movie again and growing bored. It was exciting already being familiar with the topic at hand. An example of what I mean. A book about genetics talks about how since polar bears are carnivores, their livers are replete with vitamin A, making them toxic to eat. 2 years later, upon reading a book about polar expeditions, I learned to my horror that desperate maroon sailors would get sick and die from eating the livers of their dogs. I have now read 2 accounts of carnivore livers and have this random pointless synapse in my brain that knows this. But is it so pointless? Now I'm reading about London in the 1800s. It sounds terrible, honestly. The River Thames flowing with sewage, phlegm, and refuse from all corners of the city. Well, when you mix your poop water with your drinking water, you get a horrifying thing called cholera.
Well, my good sir, people are only getting this plague from being poor and having bad airs.
A woefully wrong British guy says, introducing me to the miasma theory. It seems that before people knew about germs, they thought bad air was the cause of disease. After reading page after page of the terrifying and frankly revolting descriptions of cholera, the author will insert a relief of sorts, writing about a sensational news story happening across a pond at the time, to give us a context of what was transpiring in the rest of the world.
In New York, John McSmitherson embarked on his quest with 14 dogs, 3 Eskimos, and a crew of 25 souls to be the first to reach the North Pole, see?
Now, even though carnivore livers in particular have not been mentioned, I cannot help but remember that lonesome synapse. And I'm reading a book about how the Thames is gross. So, that random synapse gets even stronger. I liken it to a patch quilt. Reading so much adds stitches to the tapestry. It's a pretty haphazard looking quilt at first because there are so many gaps. There are universe-sized gaps of stuff I just do not know. But threads from other patches in the quilt reach to other ones, and each sentence I read adds more stitches to the blanket. After years and hundreds of books, those lonely synapses all of a sudden have company. My above-average knowledge on bear livers now complements a separate knowledge I have on bears who are performing in circuses in Peter the Great's Russia. And now, when I read about other famous circus acts in history, I think about Russia. Peter the Great, London, cholera, rabies, because the book about rabies briefly mentions cholera, World War I, which of course brings us to World War II, which means I cannot help but recall World War III, which inevitably leads us to bear livers. All roads lead back to the liver.